Today I'm on a river in rainy conditions, but the water levels are extremely low. I come across a significant school of sizable bull trout, and I'm going to examine them for a bit before throwing some flies their way. And I'm going to experiment a bit between Euronymphic streamers and stripping streamers. We begin filming, spotting a school, 20 plus fish, of larger bull trout near the deeper part of our run. Their position is holding in a line, as we often see, over a riverbed of basketball-sized boulders. It is clear they are sitting over the boulder-strewn riverbed and not so much over the sandy, finer gravel riverbed that is just above and next to them. I suspect the reason for this is partly due to the larger boulders nearby, but also because they are in a seam. A seam implies a place where fast current runs next to slower current, which creates a seam. And even though we cannot physically see the current in this video, we can surmise that the current over the boulders must be faster, hence keeping it clear of most silt and leaving only large rocks behind. Whereas the current over the finer gravel is slower, hence not sweeping away the fine sediment. And since the fish are all in a line on the edge, or the meeting point of these two differing riverbed types, where they are is likely a seam, even if we can't clearly see the actual water moving. Clearly, if you look for seams where fast current runs beside slower current, or bottom structure where the size of the substrate abruptly changes, like in this case, finer gravel on the left and large rocks on the right, it is a prime holding spot for fish. Let's watch this group a little bit longer. Do not really seem to be very active. I think my camera is actually moving more than they are. Mostly there's just a little shuffling for position every now and then. There's a little movement from the lead pair, but more just one nudging the other. As you can see, even they pretty much go right back to where they were as if nothing had happened. And one of the larger fish seems to twitch, and that spooks the others nearby, but they quickly settle back down. Nothing more than shuffling back and forth, I would say. There appear to be a fair number of smaller fry hovering closer to the camera amongst the boulders, but not much else. But now that we've watched and studied them for a bit, let's move back a bit further and throw a few flies at them. I station the camera a little further away and begin throwing flies at them. Due to the distance, the fish are sitting in a zone that looks to us very faded, and their shapes are distinguishable but just barely. There's about 20 bull trout in the area highlighted. I want to position the camera closer for better viewing, but the steep and uneven river bottom doesn't really allow that. At first I'm swinging a streamer before the fish on a clear monocore line using 0.20mm fluoro with 3x and a mosaic vampire pattern. Now my streamer swings in front of the group, and we see the reaction. Two fish move forward and give chase to my pulled streamer. Each take a swipe at the fly and miss, then one of them manages to grab the fly just as it is getting close to the shore. A brief battle occurs, I pull the fish away from the pack to minimize spooking them, and the rest of the fish pretty much ignore the scene. After releasing the fish, well, that happens in a little bit, so I'm still landing the fish here, I move back to casting. But to make a long story short, I'm unable to entice another fish even after a fly change or two pulling streamers. So I change things up. I could go to a heavier sink tip line to get down closer to the position of the fish, but I opt to change over to a nymphing rig and drop in a streamer more directly that way. Let's see how that works. I'm closer to the camera now, and although the fly cannot be seen in the distance, the streamer is being nymphed right in front of the lethargic-looking fish. 2 or 3 of the bulls at the head of the group will seem to notice the fly, but it looks like the fish most hugging the bottom, sitting deepest, moves up a foot or two in the water column to intercept the fly first. I hook the fish much to my pleasure. It's a good bull trout, probably in the 8 to 10 pound range and likely a female. Again, the rest of the fish pretty much ignore the action. I wrestle her in, get a quick shot from my camera on the tripod, and send her back off, with the plan to hopefully repeat this with the next cast. The released fish moves back into the field of view, settles in away from the rest of the group, sits tight to the bottom amongst the rocks for just over a minute, seemingly regaining its strength. It seems to pretty much just settle in for a bit. Then after roughly a minute has gone by, the fish has moved downstream just a bit, a large kiped male, similar in size to the female, swims over, moves in behind the female, and seems to herd or direct the large female back into the school, where they all settle in again. And now it just looks like nothing has happened, and the pack is just holding together as it was before the whole disturbance and the battle that we had over the fly. So naturally, I nymph out the streamer again. You can see the silt gets disturbed as I move around. Keep in mind, I'm not watching this in real time as I fish, so I don't really know that the fish have all moved back together like this. They haven't dispersed and scattered, etc., but I'm assuming they are still holding in the same spot. So I put out my fly based on this assumption. Again, the nymph streamer moves in front of the group, and the lead fish sitting on the bottom reacts first. It turns, grabs the streamer almost casually, but of course doesn't like the taste of it as soon as he gets a hold of it. A good battle ensues. I release the fish before going on to catch a few more. Shortly after this, though, I retire for the morning and call it a day. Now let's go over what we maybe observed today. Although the footage underwater today wasn't as clear due to the distance of the fish and the recent rains, we found a bonanza of bull trout, which is always a pleasure to see. These 20 fish, although they had a run that was maybe 200 feet long and 50 feet wide, they all chose to sit in a line, mostly one right after the other, right over the section of the river where there was an abrupt change in the substrate, the material that makes up the bottom. On one side they had fine gravel, on the other side it was large rocks. This is not a coincidence, as this change in the river bottom largely defines where two currents run side by side, which creates a seam, and further establishes how fish prefer to sit in specific types of water. And seams are one of the most attractive due to the feed availability or calories and comfort, two of the 3 C's that determine fish placement. Throw in the fact that they were sitting deep over a background that was dark below them, and you have the 3rd C, cover. So looking for seams or abrupt changes in the river bottom can help you quickly identify where the largest group of fish will likely be, and hopefully lead to you catching more fish. We are quick to assume that a big predatory fish like a 10-pound bull trout is always looking for a big meal ticket and willing to chase. A bait fish will swim by and that will provoke the predator to chase and strike, but that's not always the best approach. They may still always be looking for a big meal, as that is their nature, but when they are conserving energy in certain conditions, they may react to a dead drifted streamer much better. You just have to recognize these situations. A strip streamer often moves fast, pushed by the current or pulled by the angler, and tends to sit high in the water. This may provoke a predatory response to attack, but also requires an expenditure of energy and effort that a fish may not choose to exert. Consequently, the fly may be ignored, as it was this day by all but the first aggressive fish in the run. After I pulled one fish out on a swung streamer, I couldn't entice another one. Our Euronymph streamer instead moves slower and gets down faster to the fish, and stays in the zone. Sometimes chasing a big item moving fast is too much effort, but a slow, dead-drifted big item is harder to refuse right in front of them. Does that mean you should always Euronymph streamers and not strip them as your first choice? Of course not. Every situation has its optimal solution. Sometimes pulling a streamer and provoking the fish's predatory instincts to chase your fly is the best method, or the funnest. And did you see the way those 2 bull trout tore after my pulled streamer? That was awesome. Especially because I could see them chasing from above while I was retrieving. Pure adrenaline rush. But if you want to be an effective angler, i.e. a really good angler, you have to be versatile, adaptive to the situation. Unless you are Aquaman, you can't just make the fish do what you want. You have to give them what they want if you want to hook them. When the water is low and the fish are holding tight on the bottom, and you're not getting them by stripping a streamer overhead, You may be best to fish a streamer slow and deep. Get it right in front of them so they find it really tough to resist. And this is one of the best times to Euronymph a streamer instead of swinging and pulling one. Try this next time you find yourself in such a low water situation, and I think you'll find that the results will be really positive. Now thank you for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this analysis today.